Stop lying, y'all. It rains here all the time. Ladies, gentlemen, it is windy. Too windy, perhaps, to do a YouTube video. Let us go seek shelter. Look, I dressed outrageously just for you. There was a huge response all of a sudden to that video I did after I had spent about 10 days in Albuquerque. Burp, pardon me. And at this point, I've been recognized in the street. My colleagues and spouses and friends of colleagues have seen this video. Oh, Joffrey the Giant, I know him. That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun that it's happening in a new town for me. Yeah. And so, of course, I thought I would, while still a little momentum to the old video, to do a sequel to it. Yeah. I'm not going to let these kind of things define the channel, but definitely gonna hit in with a sequel while it's still relevant to you, the viewer. Okay, so what are we doing here? 10, more or less. We got to keep the format sequel thing, right? 10, more or less. Boom, wind. 10, more or less. Things I've noticed about Albuquerque in 3 months of being here. Whole different ball game. So that original video was, hey, I just got here. What are my impressions? Now it's 3 months. Now, I know from previous moves and living in other places that you can be in a place for a couple of years and think you understand it and realize that suddenly realize that you're far from understanding the place. You know, really, it's very difficult to ever reach the understanding of a native. That being said, outsider's perspective, very valuable, sudden and quick insights. That's what I'm bringing to you, ladies and gentlemen. And it is hard to, if you're from a place, to remove yourself from it and kind of look at it objectively. There were several comments people left where people said, I thought red and green was a question all over the country. I had never heard the question red and green before I moved here. Right? So just perspective plays a huge part. First thing I want to talk about is the weather. All right. The weather is crazy, I guess. That's sort of my summation of my experience, because springtime in many parts of the world is a little unpredictable, a little volatile, and it's being that way here. And some people are saying to me, oh, this is a super weird spring. We never have springs like this. And other people are saying, welcome to New Mexico Springs. Always weird. So I don't know what to expect next year. I will say that I cannot believe how green it is, and I am so happy it's so green, and I will be disappointed next year if it's not green. I've had people tell me that, you know, they've got plants living now. They would have had to be watering, or they'd be dead by now in a normal year. I don't know. I just know that it's really, really green. It's raining a lot. The wind is crazy. I mean, just unrelenting wind for days on end, and then quiet, and then again. The kind of wind that keeps you awake at night. You know, howling winds. My building at work was kind of reverberating, almost shaking with the wind. And I don't want to say impact, because an impact suggests a gust. These ain't no gusts. This is like steady, just a stream, just an unrelenting stream of wind. The other weather thing, it's sort of related to temperature. Like, it's cool right now, but it's also been very hot, right? And we're already at over a mile of altitude. My wife and I went up to the crest of the Sandia Mountains. And I hope she watches this. I advised her. I told her to wear boots. She wore sandals. She wore chacos. She's from Florida. I mean, I told her. Do I hate to say that I told her so? I do not hate it. She went up in sandals, and what is worse, convinced one of our children that it'd be okay. Object lesson learned there. So up we go to the crest. This is a couple weeks ago. There are snowbanks above the fences. Most of the hike was through snow. So and there were a bunch of us. It was a big party, and our feet just kind of sinking into the snow, up to our knees, up to our hips sometimes. And this poor woman in sandals up at the crest, and she came without a jacket as well. All of us were wearing jackets, yours truly included, of course, and heavy-duty boots. A woman she had just met that day made her wear her jacket, like lent it to her. Otherwise, my wife would have been in deep trouble. So this is a crazy place, crazy weather. I mean, just really, really hot, and then all of a sudden cloudy and cool. Then all of a sudden so much wind, but it's sunny, and then it gets cloudy again, but it's still kind of hot. The only thing that's been consistent is the dryness. I had a lot of people comment to tell me what that might be, including lots of people saying I might be diabetic. Hey, guys, my skin had not been dry before. I came here, suddenly my skin was dry. Sudden onset of New Mexico diabetes? No, come on. It was part of the altitude sickness. I feel a lot better now. I'm not thirsty anymore. So that's kind of cool. All right, traffic, getting around. I told everybody how easy it is to get around Albuquerque, and it is. I stick with that. Easy to get around Albuquerque proper. I knew that the traffic out west was a bear. However, now I've experienced it. I've experienced it going up to the northwestern side of Albuquerque and up into Rio Rancho. That was terrible. Terrible. And I've experienced trying to cross kind of through the middle of the city, cross the Rio Grande. That was terrible. Terrible. Yeah. Oh, I say terrible. Terrible. Not really. Not really, not really. Kind of like the areas I would avoid when I lived in South Carolina. And now they're going to be the areas I avoid here. But I just couldn't help it. I was going somewhere at a certain time and chill. I mean, it's not LA. Aren't you glad it's not LA? The third thing, and this is one that really resonated with a lot of people. A lot of people left comments about this, saying that you're sorry. Well, you know, the politeness thing, the politeness part of my rant, you know, caught a lot of imaginations. But the saying sorry thing, I'm just going to add one thing to what I said in the previous video. This is a weird phenomenon that I've noticed. I say phenomenon, I've noticed it's happened 3 times. But that's a lot. Given, I mean, I don't go around apologizing all the time, even though a lot of people seem to think that I do. No. But 3 times I've casually apologized for something, and the person claimed, they didn't say, you know, because you can accept an apology, but you can also say, hey, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it, or ain't no thing, or whatever. You don't have to show weakness. Which is interesting comments. A lot of people commented that apologizing is showing weakness. And I think that forgiving people is showing weakness as well, because then you're acknowledging you were hurt, which feeds into what I'm about to say. So if you don't want to acknowledge that you were hurt, you know, a lot of people will just say something like, oh, don't worry about it, no big thing. 3 times I've had people tell me, okay, so tell you straight up. 3 times I've had people tell me, oh, I didn't even notice. When I know for a fact they did. Yeah. Out at sports, out at parks, whatever it might be. And, you know, just big loud me being big loud me. I step on someone's toes, casually by accident, whatever, deliver a casual sorry. Expect a casual no big deal or no problem. Instead I get, oh, I didn't even notice. I know you noticed. I know you noticed. I stepped all over you. Oh, no, I didn't even know that had happened. Well, weird. Really weird. I don't know if it's a thing I can say about New Mexico yet. I just know that it's happened like 3 times. I'm going to keep you guys updated on that one. It's super weird, and I'd be curious to know if this is a thing, if you think it's a thing. Whatever. All right. The next thing, the 4th thing. Hats. Gotta wear hats. I think I have to start wearing a cowboy hat. Look at me. Do I look like I would wear a cowboy hat? I think I'm going to have to. There's a reason sombreros be worn in New Mexico. That's sun, and this kind of connects to the weather thing we were just doing. We spend the day out with the kids or whatever in the sun. We are exhausted. We haven't done anything. We've just stood there, wearing baseball caps, maybe under a parasol, not burnt, exhausted, just exhausted, toasted. That sun will drain you, and you can feel the radiation. You really do. Like just if you've never come to New Mexico, this I don't know what it is. This height, the lack of humidity, I don't know, but you can feel the burn, feel the radiation. Things have been around here a long time, and by that I don't mean like the native peoples and the conquistadors. I don't mean the families that you meet that have been here for 10, 15 generations. I mean, that's the case. But I mean, in the city of Albuquerque, everything has been here for 30 years, 50 years, 70 years. It's really fascinating. Like the restaurants people go to, the coffee shops, the Bible stores. I went and I bought a Bible. Old school place. Old school owner. I mean, there was nothing old or ratty about it at all. It was just like, it was an institution. Everything has longevity here. Everything's an institution. That donut place, what's it called? Rangers Donuts, Wild Donuts. I don't know. It's some crazy donuts. It's on Wyoming, just north of Manal. Wackadoo Donuts. Anywho, all these places that are institutions, although I don't think the donut place has been around that long. The driving here. So here's how I've developed my thinking about the driving. Everyone warned us when we were coming here that Albuquerque drivers are crazy. They're not. Wild, unpredictable, whatever. Maybe. So I could always tell when I was getting back to South Carolina because everything was, nobody was in a hurry, and everybody was so polite. Dangerously polite sometimes, but regardless. Even compared to other southern states, it was crazy. Those of you who have watched my Chile video have figured out that I'm Latin American, although perhaps not of what provenance. Listen, there are places that I'm scared to drive in, but I've driven in some scary places. I've driven in New York. I've driven in Boston. I've driven south of the Rio Grande. I'm still here. Never gotten in an accident. Ever. So I can handle crazy. I've had some kind of close calls here. The driving here is dangerous. But I'll tell you why. It's not because of the aggressive drivers. The reason it's dangerous here is that you've got half crazy, stupid, aggressive drivers and half do-de-do, moseying along, being very polite drivers. That's a recipe for disaster. You go to South Carolina, everybody's super-duper polite. You're safe. You go to São Paulo, everyone's aggro. That's fine. You're safe because you can predict. You can tell what people are going to do. Everyone can kind of operate together. You know what the rules of the road are. Here there are no rules of the road. And not because it's Mad Max. It's just because you don't know if the guy in front of you is one of the aggros or one of the vegetarians. They're not vegetarians. They're just soft and meek and mild. All right, I've got 2 things to say about spice, about food. And then I'm done. Okay, the first thing is, you guys are weird about chili. You all are promising addiction. That's the word. Every single one of you talking about chili, used the word addiction. That's frightening. And some of you gave time periods to sort of suggest that chili would inexorably advance in my life and slowly take over bit by bit until one day I would wake up and realize that I could not be without chili. Okay. I mean, yeah. I'll keep you guys updated on my journey with chili. The second thing about food is... So you remember I talked about spice levels. So the baseline of spice was higher here. That's kind of cool. The food here is not that spicy, but the baseline is spicy. Like your average salsa that you get at a restaurant, spicier. I mean, there's just a little bit of spice in everything, which is nice. I said I enjoyed that. I have bad news for y'all. Well, it's only bad news if you care what I think. Hopefully you're just watching this to be entertained. But maybe you do. Maybe you care deeply, and this is going to injure you. I mean, I think the food here is kind of bland. Let the comment storm erupt. I mean, I love carne adobada. It's a very straightforward dish, though. Very simple. Which is fine. That's great. You know what it is? As the wind picks up. There are no veggies. Like, I know there's a typical dish, calabacita, but there's just no veggies. Everything is corn and meat. But you know what? This is a desert. So, okay. How much flourishing cuisine can there be? But yeah, there's a bit of a blandness, and I know that's an offensive thing to say about someone's cuisine. Maybe this will give some guys an excuse to go ahead and just lay into me. Go for it. Do it. Educate me. But that actually kind of informs why the chili thing is so attractive. Because chili's a fruit. Chili's a veggie, and so it provides a little color. I mean, not just visually color, and not just spice either. It just provides a little life for the food. I do love that it's whole beans here. I might have said that in the last video. Love that. But, yeah, you dudes need to cook with some vegetables. It's got to be more than rice, beans, and lard. Oh, rice, beans, and vegetable medley. Tell me about the calabacita dish. I'd love to know more about that. All right, so those are the things that I've sort of picked up along the way. I've been here 3 months now. My opinions about Albuquerque. But yeah, there's been less about the city itself this time, hasn't there? And just more about New Mexico and Albuquerque weather and the food. I talked a little bit about the food. So I'm still on this journey, and this channel is not going to be about my Albuquerque journey, but it's going to feature plenty of that. So, subscribe, like, comment. The peace of Christ be upon you.